what's behind it is not glamorous, it's working.
That was William Shatner 2 years ago, a warning that nobody at Paramount took seriously, because what just happened inside the walls of Paramount has never occurred in the 60-year history of Star Trek, and the fallout could end careers and fundamentally reshape what this franchise becomes next. According to multiple sources, a group of Star Trek's most legendary cast members have organized a coordinated revolt against the franchise's creative leadership. They've confronted Paramount executives directly, they've demanded that Alex Kurtzman be removed from his position, and they've made it clear that if Paramount doesn't act, they will go public with everything. Every warning they gave that was ignored, every detail about how the franchise was driven into the ground. This isn't one actor complaining. This is the old guard of Star Trek declaring war on the people who they believe destroyed Gene Roddenberry's legacy. The revolt reached a boiling point at the Saturn Awards ceremony on March 8th. William Shatner, Jonathan Frakes, Brent Spiner, and Robert Picardo were all in the same room as Alex Kurtzman, supposedly celebrating Star Trek's 60th anniversary together. But according to people backstage, what was happening off-camera was the opposite of a celebration. Cast members from across Star Trek's history had been talking privately for weeks about Starfleet Academy's disastrous reception, the production shutdown, and Kurtzman's speech where he talked about the message of Star Trek while the franchise was actively collapsing. The Saturn Awards became the catalyst because it put everyone in the same room. Shatner, who'd been biting his tongue for months, Frakes, who had directed for Starfleet Academy but privately had deep concerns, Spiner, who sources say has been quietly furious about what happened to the next generation's legacy, and Picardo, who'd been vocal about the franchise's history. According to insiders, these legacy actors requested a private meeting with Paramount executives in the days following the ceremony. The meeting reportedly took place earlier this week, and what happened inside that room is now the most talked about event in Hollywood.
Sources describe the meeting as brutal. Not raised voices and screaming, worse. Calm, prepared, devastating. The veterans came with specifics, a detailed accounting of everything that went wrong under Kurtzman's leadership. They walked executives through the numbers, Discovery's declining viewership until cancellation, Picard's failure to deliver on one of television's most beloved characters. Section 31 voted the worst Star Trek production in 60 years. Lower Decks and Prodigy, the two shows fans actually loved, getting canceled while inferior content continued. And Starfleet Academy, a show that couldn't beat SpongeBob reruns despite costing over $8 million per episode. Then they got personal. One veteran told executives that Kurtzman doesn't understand Star Trek and never has, that his background in Transformers movies is fundamentally incompatible with a franchise built on ideas and thoughtful storytelling, that putting him in charge was like hiring a demolition expert to restore a cathedral. Another reportedly said, "What's happened isn't just failure, it's malpractice." He was given a $160 million deal and an unmatched library of beloved characters, and he produced content that actively drove away the people who love this franchise most. Someone brought up the Saturn Awards directly. They pointed out that Kurtzman stood on stage talking about the message while every single metric, viewership, audience scores, production status, points to catastrophic failure. If he genuinely believes he's been successful, that delusion alone is reason enough to remove him. The most explosive part was the ultimatum. The legacy actors told Paramount they're prepared to go public with a coordinated campaign against Kurtzman if he isn't removed. Not vague criticism in interviews, a full organized effort using their platforms and their credibility as the people who built Star Trek. They threatened to refuse participation in any Star Trek promotional events, conventions, or reunions as long as Kurtzman remains in charge. For a franchise whose brand value is built on legacy, that threat is nuclear. Imagine promoting Star Trek's 60th anniversary when the actors who made it famous are publicly telling fans the franchise is being destroyed. One actor said something that left the room silent. The original Star Trek survived cancellation, survived bad movies, survived being off the air for a decade because the people who made it loved it enough to protect it. What they're doing now is the same thing, protecting Star Trek from the people who are supposed to be running it. Paramount tried to push back. They brought up the 88% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. One veteran laughed and said critics gave it 88 and the actual audience gave it 43. That the people who watch Star Trek are telling you it's terrible, and you're hiding behind critics who get screened 2 episodes and write nice reviews to maintain access. When the people who pay for your streaming service won't watch your show, the critics don't matter. They also brought up Strange New Worlds as evidence the franchise could still produce quality. The veterans had an answer for that, too. One actor pointed out that Strange New Worlds is ending after an abbreviated 5th season, that it started strong but declined, and that even the best show Kurtzman produced couldn't maintain its standard under his leadership. One decent show out of 7 doesn't prove the system works, it proves a broken clock is right twice a day. Executives tried the financial argument. Star Trek drives Paramount Plus subscriptions. One veteran asked if that's true, why did Starfleet Academy fall out of the top 10 in its premiere week? Why are reruns of Everybody Loves Raymond outperforming a brand new Star Trek show? And why has every Star Trek show, except one, been canceled early if the numbers are so strong? The room apparently went quiet after that.
There's another layer driving Paramount's panic. According to sources, some of the veterans have had back-channel conversations with Skydance, the company that now owns Paramount. Not formal meetings, but private discussions through mutual industry contacts, the kind of thing that happens constantly in Hollywood but rarely becomes public. What matters is what these conversations suggest, that Skydance may be receptive to the veterans' concerns, that the new ownership might view removing Kurtzman not as caving to pressure, but as a strategic business decision to reset a struggling franchise. His contract expires at the end of 2026, and insiders say Skydance has shown no interest in renewing it. No discussions, formal or informal, have taken place about extending the partnership. If the legacy actors' revolt gives Skydance political cover to make a change they were already considering, then this meeting wasn't just actors venting, it was a coordinated move to accelerate the end of the Kurtzman era. And based on Paramount's panicked response, it's working. Sources say some executives inside Paramount privately agree with the veterans and think the change is long overdue. Others are defending Kurtzman, but they're increasingly outnumbered by the people who can read a spreadsheet. The industry gossip has been intense. People at Paramount are talking, agents are talking, producers who have nothing to do with Star Trek are talking, because legacy talent doesn't do this. They don't organize, coordinate, and threaten studios. They take their checks and smile for photos at conventions. The fact that Star Trek's original cast is willing to burn bridges tells you exactly how bad they believe the situation has become. One producer told contacts that if the people who built your franchise are willing to burn bridges to save it from you, you've already lost. Another called it the most significant talent revolt against a studio in decades. Sources point to one TNG-era actor who delivered the most withering assessment of Kurtzman's tenure, going show by show explaining exactly how each one failed to understand what Star Trek is. A DS9 veteran reportedly compared modern Trek to fan fiction written by someone who'd only read Wikipedia summaries of the original shows. There's also talk about what happened in the hallways after the meeting ended. Sources say several Paramount employees who weren't in the room but heard about it afterward were privately celebrating. One insider said you could feel the energy shift in the building. People who'd been afraid to criticize the franchise's direction for years suddenly felt like maybe change was actually possible. The fan reaction has been massive and overwhelmingly supportive. Social media is flooded with fans celebrating the idea that the people who made Star Trek great are finally fighting back. Even fans who defended the newer shows are acknowledging the revolt has legitimacy. When the people who built something say it's being destroyed, you have to listen. The question now is what Paramount does next. Sources say the company is in active discussions, and Kurtzman's name is at the center of every conversation. But here's what should terrify anyone defending the status quo. The audience agrees with the actors. The ratings agree with the actors. The production shutdown agrees with the actors. Chris Pine walking away agrees with the actors. Every single piece of evidence says the same thing, and now the people who created Star Trek's legacy are saying it to Paramount's face. We've had enough. Fire him, or we go public. Star Trek has survived a lot in 60 years. It has always come back because the people who cared about it fought for it. That's what's happening now. The people who love Star Trek most are fighting for it one more time. And this time, the enemy isn't a network executive who doesn't understand science fiction. It's the man who was given the keys to the franchise and drove it off a cliff while telling everyone the road ahead looked bright. William Shatner warned them 2 years ago. He said Roddenberry would be turning in his grave. Chris Pine warned them when he walked away. The audience warned them every week with declining numbers. Nobody listened. Now the legends are standing in front of Paramount saying it to their faces, and for the first time, Paramount can't look away. Because this time, it's not fans on the internet, it's the people whose faces are on the lunchboxes and whose work created the billions in value that Paramount has been burning through. The revolt has begun, the legends have spoken, and the clock is ticking.